Welcome to Skytech-Lens. Today we're not just talking about machines, we're talking about trust, tragedy, and accountability in aviation. We're diving into the chilling crash of Air India Flight 171 and the revelations shaking Boeing to its core. This isn't just about one flight, it's about what happens when safety culture cracks and warnings go unheeded. We'll break down the mechanical failures, the internal whistleblowing, and the fallout that's rocked the industry. This story matters to everyone who steps onto a plane. Buckle up, this is a heavy one, but it's a story that must be told. Let's get started. Air India Flight 171. A routine Dreamliner flight, hundreds of lives, and a sudden, catastrophic engine failure mid-flight. The pilots, trained for emergencies, faced a nightmare. A massive engine went silent, and the plane's fate hung in the balance. Initial suspicion fell on pilot error, but black box data told a different story. The failure wasn't human, it was deep within the aircraft's own systems. Investigators found the engine shutdown was spontaneous, likely triggered by a software or mechanical fault. This wasn't an isolated incident, it was a warning. The Dreamliner, celebrated for its advanced tech, now faced scrutiny for its complexity. Was software its Achilles heel? Investigators uncovered a pattern, years of minor software glitches and ignored warnings. What seemed like isolated bugs were now seen as red flags leading to disaster. The crash wasn't just an accident, it was the result of missed signals and systemic issues. The silence of that engine echoed with the sound of past warnings that went unheard. The industry was forced to confront a terrifying question. How many other planes were flying with hidden flaws? The investigation had only just begun, but the implications were already global. Trust in Boeing's engineering was shaken to its core. The world demanded answers, and accountability. This was no longer just about Flight 171. It was about the future of aviation safety. As investigators dug deeper, a Boeing engineer stepped forward, a whistleblower with explosive claims. They described relentless pressure to meet deadlines, leading to shortcuts and improper assembly of the Dreamliner's fuselage. Gaps in the aircraft's skin, forced together on the line, created hidden weaknesses. Quality control was in crisis. Concerns were ignored, and speaking up meant risking your job. The FAA, meant to be the watchdog, was accused of being too close to Boeing, outsourcing oversight back to the manufacturer. The whistleblower's evidence, documents, emails, internal records, painted a picture of systemic problems. The crash of Flight 171 wasn't a fluke, it was a symptom of a deeper disease within Boeing's culture. The drive for speed and profit had overtaken the company's legendary engineering standards. The revelations forced a reckoning. How many other shortcuts had been taken? The tragedy exposed a company at war with itself, engineers fighting for safety, management pushing for output. The FAA's slow response only deepened the crisis of trust. The world now questioned not just Boeing's planes, but its entire approach to safety. The Dreamliner's promise was overshadowed by a culture in crisis. The fallout was just beginning. The industry faced a moment of truth. Enter the RAT. The Ram Air Turbine, a last resort emergency system. On Flight 171, the RAT deployed, signaling a catastrophic electrical failure. This wasn't supposed to happen unless the plane was on the brink. Investigators found a troubling pattern. The RAT had deployed unexpectedly on other Dreamliners, sometimes even on the ground. Software glitches and electrical bugs had been reported for years, known issues, patched but never fully solved. Boeing's fixes were band-aids, not cures. A true safety culture hunts for threats before disaster strikes, but these warning signs were dismissed as minor glitches. The deployment of the RAT was the machine's final scream, a culmination of ignored alarms. Why weren't these clues enough to trigger a full review? The answer pointed to a culture too quick to downplay risk. Each glitch was a whisper, the RAT's deployment was a shout. The Dreamliner's reliability was now in question. The industry was forced to ask, are we listening to our machines? The cost of ignoring warnings had become tragically clear. The echoes of that alarm still haunt every Dreamliner in the sky. As if software and assembly issues weren't enough, investigators found water leaks, yes, water, reaching the Dreamliner's electronics bay. Poorly installed seals let water drip onto critical systems, risking shorts, power failures, and even fires. This was a known problem, but Boeing's fix? Drip shields, not real repairs. It was a temporary patch, not a solution, like putting a bucket under a leaky roof. The Dreamliner's global supply chain added more risk. Substandard and even counterfeit parts slipped through weak oversight. Quality control failures weren't isolated, they were everywhere, from the factory floor to suppliers worldwide. The system built on trust was breaking down. Each issue, leaks, software bugs, faulty parts, was a symptom of a deeper disease: systemic oversight failure. The Dreamliner's promise was being undermined by a culture of shortcuts. Regulators and Boeing alike were caught flat-footed. The pattern was clear: quick fixes, not lasting solutions. The consequences were now impossible to ignore. The industry faced a reckoning with its own standards. Every detail matters in aviation, and too many had been overlooked. The cost was measured in lives and lost trust. The crash and whistleblower revelation sent shockwaves through aviation. Trust in Boeing collapsed. Passengers, airlines, and regulators all questioned the Dreamliner's safety. Airlines canceled orders, grounded fleets, and demanded compensation. Boeing's financial losses mounted. Its reputation was in freefall. The CEO resigned, and promises of reform followed, but for many, it was too late. Regulators worldwide launched independent investigations, no longer trusting the FAA's word alone. The global regulatory system fractured, grounding Dreamliners in key markets. Airlines faced logistical nightmares, and Boeing fought to regain trust on multiple fronts. The crisis exposed deep flaws in oversight and corporate culture. The Aftershocks stripped away Boeing's glossy image, revealing a company in crisis. The Dreamliner, once a symbol of progress, became a cautionary tale. The industry's faith in self-regulation was shattered. Boeing's future and the future of aviation safety hung in the balance. The world demanded real change, not just promises. The stakes had never been higher. After all this, what's the verdict on the Boeing 787 Dreamliner? Technologically, it's a marvel. Lightweight composites, fuel efficiency, and passenger comfort. But a plane isn't judged by specs alone. Safety and reliability are everything. Systemic shortcuts, a broken safety culture, and ignored warnings cast a long shadow. Engineering brilliance means nothing if assembly is rushed and concerns are silenced. The Dreamliner is both a triumph of ambition and a cautionary tale of corporate failure. Its legacy is still being written. Will Boeing and the industry learn from tragedy? The answer isn't just technical, it's moral. The 787 stands as a symbol of the thin line between innovation and hubris. The price of progress can't be human lives. The final verdict will be delivered by time and by whether real reform follows. The hope that these lessons lead to lasting change, not just at Boeing, but industry-wide. The Dreamliner's story is a warning. In aviation, there can be no compromise on safety. The world is watching to see if the industry truly learns. The next chapter depends on what happens now. That's the story of Flight 171 and Boeing's crisis. Now we want to hear from you. Can Boeing regain your trust? Have regulators done enough? Is the 787 a triumph or a cautionary tale? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read every one. For more deep dives, subscribe to Skytech-Lens and hit the notification bell. Thanks for joining us for this important story. Stay sharp, stay safe, and see you next time.